Do you actually think Brock Purdy's playing poorly? Check this out. For your giggles, you do whatever you want with this.
Right.
I'm not trying to make a point. I am presenting this for your consumption. So, DVOA, okay?
Which is kind of an all-encompassing way to rank, right? It's I don't know what it stands
Value
for.
over average, yeah. So DVOA is advanced analytics on the overall standing of whatever it is you're talking about. And in this case, if you do that just for passing offenses, and I wonder what anybody wants to do with this, just the passing offense. This has nothing to do with the run game, just the 49ers 2023 passing offense.
Up to date through Cincinnati.
Up to date through Cincinnati, and I will acknowledge that's only half of a season. And so you can't head off into the history books with half of a season. But offensive pass offense DVOA. And by the way, these numbers are through 8 games. So these other teams I'm going to talk about were also not for a full season. For the first half of a season, passing offense DVOA. The 49ers, in their first 5 games, were number 2 all time. Just the passing game.
Dating back to when?
1969
or something like that?
Like at least early 80s. I can't tell you what this dates back to. I can just tell you that
I think it's late 60s.
But 1984 is the oldest team that's in the top 10. Okay? But now...
So we know it's at least that old.
Now, after 3 losses, you figure, well, 17 points a game, 3 weeks in a row is going to fall off the map. Through 8 games, even now, the 49ers pass offense by DVOA through 8 games is number 8 all time. All time.
Every team that ever played.
Every team that ever played. All time, right now, number 8 efficiency all time through 8 games. Just the passing game, not the offense. So, I don't know. You tell me. I know every single one of us can take what we see, and therefore it blends in with our heart, and we all have our biases and the players we like. I really like Brock Purdy. And I don't mean that as like, oh, I like him. He's a nice guy. Like, I think he's a really good player. That is my assessment of this player. I think he's really good. I think a lot of his high-level stuff gets brushed aside because people don't want it. Look, I've coined it. It's draftism. It is sizeism as well. There's no doubt about it. You said it earlier in the conversation we were having with Joe Theismann.
If he was 6'5", 240.
If he looked like Justin Herbert, who's 3-4 this year, we wouldn't talk about him the way we do.
Right.
We wouldn't. That is a fact in my mind. Okay, so I really like the guy, and maybe that's a bias. I'm okay with that. We all have him. But you can take whatever it is you think and then go find the numbers. Probably. I mean, I don't think you can go find Garoppolo numbers that tell you he's great right now this year, but you can go find the numbers that help support, and then there are others that don't. Like right now.
Stats lie and liars use statistics.
Well, so here's no doubt, and we're all liars. So here's what I hear a lot of, and you tell me what sits with you more. There's the one that I just said. Passing game is number 8 DVOA through 8 games all time. I would also say that I hear a lot of people right now going, Brock Purdy's 4th in the NFL in terms of turnover-worthy plays. Okay? Which one of those numbers sits with you and resonates with you more?
Well, I mean, turnover-worthy plays.
Turnover-worthy plays. That takes out a play whether somebody drops the ball or whatever.
Right. And also, any good quarterback will tell you that you have to throw the 50-50 ball. You have to throw those balls. You have to throw the ball that could get picked off and could get grabbed by your receiver. You got to give your receivers a chance at the 50-50 ball. You show me a quarterback that is totally hesitant to throw the 50-50 ball, he's probably too conservative. He's probably captain check down. And there have been guys like that. I think Alex Smith was similar to that in some ways.
I agree with
at times when he was here. So you got to be willing to take chances. You got to put it out there. If you ever listen to a quarterback talk about his favorite receiver, he'll say, blankety blank receiver, man, he'll sure go get it for you.
Yes.
He'll go get it for you. So in other words, you know that you're putting up the ball and it could go to the defender, and there's a trust, a reliance on that receiver.
I mean, that's what a back shoulder throw is. A back shoulder throw is a receiver who's not open.
Right.
It's like, in a way, is almost attempting to not be open. It's a timing play. It's a chemistry play. It's throw to a spot, and I know you're going to be there while you're running with a defensive back, and then you're going to stop and turn in a way that the DB doesn't know, and then you got to fight for the ball usually up against the sideline. And yeah, the best receivers do that, better than the others.
I was watching Green Bay on Monday night, whatever it was, 4 or 5 weeks ago. Jordan Love threw one down the field to Christian Watson. He couldn't make a play on it, and he just allowed the DB to just pick it off. He did not compete for it. He did not go get it. He did not fight for it. And it's like, if I'm the quarterback, man, we're having a conversation right there. It's like, hey, look, it wasn't a great thrown ball, but man, could you please compete for that ball in the air and act like a DB if it's not coming your way? He didn't do it. He's a young receiver, though. Absolutely.
Who's also still coming off of an injury himself. His whole season has gotten kind of derailed to this point. But yeah, there's all kinds of, obviously, there's subjectivity to it. There's a little bit of luck in terms of interceptions. And over a long haul, you get a better view of who someone is. The same way when Brock had whatever it was, I think it was 11 touchdowns and no picks, and we all said, it's like he's not throwing 0 this year. He's not going to go undefeated. That's not possible. But it is, for me, it's another example of the draftism, the sizeism, the controversy that Brock seems to create. It's kind of a funny, polarizing figure, to be honest with you, when you watch him walk through the hallway with his backpack and his aw shucks nature. Like, how did this guy become a lightning rod?
Right,
but
just
he is
the opposite of a lightning
Seriously,
rod.
He's like not Bobby Knight.
Well, you know what? I get the feeling that there were people that only reluctantly said they supported him because of the overwhelming evidence.
I agree with this.
That he was playing good ball. It was like there were a lot of people. He was not their cup of tea. They didn't believe in him. They stated it openly. They campaigned all summer for Trey Lance or whomever, and they were just sitting there kind of watching these games, waiting for him to fail. And once he started to fail, it's like rubbing. You can almost see people on Twitter rubbing their hands together.
Totally.
And like, yes, we got some action now, And that's sad and somewhat kind of pathetic, I think. And I know recency bias is a thing, but you kind of wonder, like, somebody sent me this on Twitter this week. Some guy tweeted out Tom Brady's game log from his second year in the NFL. And Tom Brady, in his second year in the NFL, lost 4 games in a row. Okay, he lost 4 games in a row, 21-14, 26-13, 28-10, 24-16. 4 losses in a row, and he threw 7 picks in those 4 losses. Well, that was, whatever year that was, 2002. Now in this era of Twitter and social media, would people have been clamoring for, I don't know, whoever the backup, Drew Bledsoe, if he was still there, or whoever the other backup quarterback was, would be, people be, get him out of there, get him out of there.
Probably. Although it depends on how you entered. It's got to all be on the table. It's draftism, it's sizeism, and then I got to come up with a nickname for the other one. Maybe it's Treyism, which is real. Brock ended up in a spot where people were excited about the other guy, and then when it didn't come to fruition, Brock represented the other side to this. Like, I've heard so many people go, well, this is Kyle Shanahan's anointed, hand-picked QB. No, it's not. It's the opposite of that. It's totally the opposite of that. It's the guy who he stumbled into when the guy who was anointed didn't work. So he's like, whoa, well, this Brock guy's actually showing us some things. And over 2 training camps, they were like, okay, he's got it. That's the guy we're going to go with. He's definitely the best option we've got right now. And it might be a life hack that we can have a quarterback make $900,000 think about what we could do with our roster, at least in the short term. That doesn't scream handpicked and anointed, but people treat him that way because, and I understand this, people were told Trey Lance is the next big thing, and he's number 3 overall pick, and people were excited to see it. And it's almost like they feel robbed because they never got to really see it, although that's because behind the scenes he showed he couldn't. But they never got to see it, and so Brock represents this block. It's like a brick wall between people and their Trey Lance excitement.
As Brock has struggled, Trey's name has come up an awful lot in the last 10 days. That to me is really interesting as well.
I agree. It tells you everything.
There's still scarring there. And there's also scarring from the Jimmy Garoppolo thing. It's like, Jimmy was supposed to be the guy, and then Jimmy wasn't the guy. And so I'm not going to believe in Brock because Jimmy I thought was the guy, but isn't. So I'm not going to believe in Brock because. So it's like, if that's your scope, man, that's an awfully narrow scope.
Yeah, it's disingenuous is actually the word I would use for it.